Welcome in, everyone, to the Football Addicts Anonymous podcast. As always, I'm Rusty. Got my boy Chris Cherry.
How's it going?
Been a while. Been a whole week since we didn't have an actual Friday show. Surprisingly, there's not a terrible amount of news to go through. There's a lot of big things, though. A lot of, big name players getting signed or re-signed. But yeah, we're gonna talk about all that, break down the FCS semifinal games, and also go over the NFC South draft. So let's get this started here. So I was not able to watch these games. I was following sporadically, very sporadically, at my sister's wedding on Saturday. But first game was not so good. Second game was very good. I wish I could have watched the second game, but I was having a lot of fun. So, all right. So first one, number 1 seed South Dakota State rolls number 5 Delaware 33-3. I was very wrong on this game. I had Delaware covering +9. I just thought Delaware's defense was better. Granted, I mean, 33 is not a terrible amount to give up. You can win giving up 33, but Nolan Henderson and the offense gave them no support. So,
yeah. Well, I was going to say, I think the story of this one was the South Dakota State defense only giving up a field goal. I mean, I obviously haven't given my thoughts on a game because you did it yourself on Friday night, but I mean, I knew that South Dakota State was going to win this one. However, like you said, I didn't think it was going to be this much of a blowout. Whether or not Delaware covered, though, I would have been on the fence with that one. But, yeah, this just shows why South Dakota State was the number 1 seed in this tournament.
Yeah, and it actually ended up being 33 unanswered from South Dakota State. The only chances Delaware had to get points, they missed a field goal in the second quarter that would have made it 20-6. And then South Dakota State went and scored just before halftime, 27-3 at half. But then other than that, Delaware turned it down over on downs twice in the second half, once at the South Dakota State 5-yard line. That could have made it 30-10. And then the second one was at the South Dakota State 35, which at that point it was 33-3 already. So
that's kind of interesting, though, that it was 27-3 at halftime. Then there was only 6 points scored in the second half. I mean,
yeah,
South Dakota State, like, what happened to them in the second half?
They probably set on cruise control, got into their ground game with Pierre Strong and Isaiah Davis there. But, yeah, they also had a trick play that worked, that 24-yard passing touchdown from Pierre Strong to Mark Gronowski there. That play worked. So everything was working for the Jackrabbits in this one. They're headed to Frisco, Texas next weekend to play for the FCS championship. And that it's weird because the FCS championship, it's actually on Sunday next week. So, but some other things in this game that tell the tale of the game here. Neither team was very good on third down. 6 of 16 for Delaware, 3 of 9 for South Dakota State. Delaware 1 for 3 on 4th down. South Dakota State 1 of 1. So, but really, the rushing yards I think was the biggest thing that stood out to me. South Dakota State outrushed Delaware by 100 yards, 168 to 68. And Delaware was only at 1.5 yards per carry. South Dakota State 5.3. No turnovers in this one. Only 2 penalties, both on Delaware for 22 yards. A very clean game.
Mm-hmm.
And, Delaware had the possession, 37:05 to 22:55.
Sometimes it's all about the quick scoring.
Yeah. I mean, only one of the 4 touchdowns was inside of 10 yards. They scored from 30, 24, 3, and 14. So, yeah. Jackson Yankee there getting on the board, 64 off 3 receptions and a touchdown. Like I said, Mark Gronowski, he's my guy. I love Mark Gronowski. So,
yeah, you've been raving about him all season, and here we find him in the championship game. So,
yep. All right. South Dakota State covered -7, under 38 hit.
If only Delaware had made that other field goal.
Second semifinal game, like I said, a lot more exciting than the first one. Number 2 seed Sam Houston State taking down number 3 James 2 at 35. Both quarterbacks turn the ball over. Cole Johnson did score 4 times, though. Eric Schmid 3 total times for him. 3 interceptions combined between the two. A lot of stats, Jacuz Ezzard there, he had a fantastic game, 4 for 107 and a touchdown. Also returned a punt, 80 yards for a score. And that's my guy for James Madison in the coming years, Antoine Wells Jr., another great game for him in his freshman year, 7 for 89 and a touchdown.
Yeah,
but I will say the last guy. You can see I put it there. I wasn't gonna put it there.
Mm-hmm.
I was just gonna say it and put his stats there. But yeah, the most consistent kicker, I think, anyways, in all of FCS, Ethan Ratkee, missing his first field goal of the season.
Oof.
With 2:09 to go, 51 yards to tie the game at 38, and he missed it.
I mean, 51 isn't that easy of a kick anyway, but that's probably really tough on him. But the thing that stands out to me is comparing the two quarterbacks. Obviously, neither one really had a great day passing the ball. But when you look at it, I think the thing that made the biggest difference was Eric Schmid rushing for 55 yards and 2 touchdowns. I mean, I know Cole Johnson also got a rushing touchdown, but there's no yards associated with that, which I assume means he didn't have any yards on the ground.
He had 5, I believe. Yeah, 10 for 5.
Well, still, that's nothing really. So Schmid obviously was able to adapt to the situation when they couldn't get it done in the air. He was able to do it on the ground as well. So,
yeah, and I think that's where the matchup with South Dakota State is going to be a lot more intriguing with both quarterbacks being able to run. Because Schmid, I don't know what Gronowski does, but Schmid, I know watching Sam Houston games, they have said he has legit 4.4 speed for a quarterback. So, and you can see it when you watch the games. He's really fast for being a quarterback. But yeah, sucks to see JMU go. This realistically could have been a championship game. But that's the thing that we said earlier when the bracket first came out. We knew the top of the bracket was not that tough for South Dakota State to be able to make the championship game. We'll have to see next Sunday, does the difficulty of opponents matter, especially in the playoffs? Because South Dakota State plays in the hardest conference. Sam Houston State had the tougher schedule in the playoffs to get here. So,
yeah, I was thinking that. I mean, obviously, Sam Houston State, like you said, they've had the tougher schedule, but South Dakota State, I mean, yeah, they've had probably the easiest schedule out of anybody in the tournament. So it all depends on if they took these games for granted or not. Because if they kind of were like, whatever, we're going to make it to the championship and kind of just looked ahead to the championship and ignored these teams and didn't really prepare, then I think they're in for a rude awakening on Sunday. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I know we'll have the preview on Friday, but just looking at the matchup, I don't know. I think that the game that we're looking at on the screen right now might be the best game of the tournament. I don't know if the championship will be as good.
Yeah. I don't know. Sam Houston State, North Dakota State was also very good as well. Sam Houston State now is 16-0 all time at home in the playoffs. Casey Keeler, their head coach, now 30-0 at home in the playoffs in his head coaching career. So just crazy.
Wait, is the championship game at a neutral site or is it in Sam Houston?
Nope, it's at a neutral site, Frisco, Texas.
All right.
But it'll be, I would assume it's going to be, the crowd will probably lean more towards Sam Houston if they're not just selling tickets to each school.
Yeah.
If they're letting public tickets get sold, then I can see a lot more Sam Houston fans there because Sam Houston is in Texas. All right. Zion McCollum, the interception for the Bearcats, Kelvin Azanama, and Greg Ross, the picks for the Dukes. And it's funny, I was actually with a JMU alum at my sister's wedding, and I kept giving him updates on the game. And then later on, he's like, when I told him they lost, he was shocked. But then like later on, he's like, so did they actually lose or are you just joking? I was like, no, they actually lost. Ratkee missed a field goal late. But yeah, good. Like I said, JMU, they're going to be there in the fall as well. So the only thing, like I said, they're going to have to figure out who their quarterback is. Cole Johnson, fifth-year senior, he's going to graduate. So that's the thing, though. Like, I actually don't know if he's going to graduate because, everyone has their extra year that they can come back. So he could be a sixth-year senior, but I also don't know if what the announcers are announcing at games are the years for the 2020 season or are they years for the 2021 season. I would assume since FCS is playing in the spring here, it is their class that they were going to be if they would have played in 2020 fall season. But that's just what I'm assuming.
Yeah, I think it was what they were like this past year. So
yeah. So yeah, maybe Cole Johnson does come back for another year with the extra year of eligibility that the NCAA is granting. But who knows? I think if he does, JMU will, I think, easily be probably number 2 or 3 in the preseason FCS poll in the fall. Yeah. Sam Houston State covered plus 1.5 over 47 easily. 73 in this one. Okay. Here we go. FCS Playoff Bracket, like I said, next Sunday, 2 p.m. The NCAA has the time on their thing already. ESPN doesn't have the game on their on their schedule yet, so I didn't even know what time it was. So yeah, 2 p.m. on Sunday. I don't know what. I would assume it's going to be on ESPN, but I don't exactly know yet. ESPN or ABC.
It's one of the rare times where the top 2 teams actually made it to the finals too. So good job with the seeding for the actually correctly picking the top 2 teams.
Yeah, definitely. All right, NFL news. Didn't have any NCAA news, but we're gonna start off with your Jets, Chris. They got the first pick signed. They won the lottery. they get a gold star for signing the first draft pick. Their 5th round safety, Jamian Sherwood out of Auburn, 4 years, $3,834,856.
Hey, I mean, I know it's not that big of a deal because it was just the 5th round guy or whatever, but I like this regime's sense of urgency. Get your players signed, get it underway. I mean, they were one of the few teams that had the rookie minicamp over the weekend anyway, so
yeah,
they probably had a lot of chances to do that. I mean, I think they signed majority of their guys now anyway. I think it's only like Wilson and Vera Tucker are left or something like that.
Makes sense. Usually higher round draft picks take longer.
Yeah.
But yeah, Mr. Irrelevant gets stuff. Why shouldn't I think there should be something to the guy that signs first in the rookie class? Why not?
Yeah, because technically that would make him the first official NFL player of the entire class.
Yeah. That got drafted anyways. Yeah. Undrafted free agents, it's like freaking,
they're already getting signed before the draft's even over.
It's like ducks on bread. NFL teams just calling. You need about five to 10 phones when you're an undrafted player to field all the calls.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Next thing here, the Panthers. We had talked about them interviewing some candidates. I believe in total they interviewed 3 or 4 for their assistant GM spot to go with Scott Fitterer there. And they have hired a very familiar face, one Dan Morgan, former Panthers linebacker, played at Penn State as well. He was the Bills director of player personnel and now is the Panthers assistant GM. Looking forward to him becoming a GM a couple years down the line, most likely. Okay, we're going to go back to the Aaron Rodgers well. So last week, there were reports that in a player group text, he mocked GM Brian Gutekunst to his teammates, and he called him Jerry Krause, who, when this was brought up, I was like, who is Jerry Krause? I didn't watch the what was it called? The Jordan documentary.
Oh yeah.
I don't remember what they were called.
Yeah, I can't think of it.
But yeah, apparently, that was one of the Jerry Krause was the guy that built the Bulls dynasty, and he also was the guy that got the Bulls dynasty to a crumble.
Mm-hmm.
And also it was said that Michael Jordan did not like Jerry Krause very much either. So, yeah. Rodgers is calling out the GM now. No, it's not publicly. It's, in it to his teammates, but.
Well, it's public now because apparently somebody leaked it from that group chat.
Yeah. Brett Favre also chimed in, said his gut says that Rodgers is done in Green Bay. So long way to go still, but I don't know. His situation, Deshaun Watson's situation. We have a million, we have it's May now, so we got 2 months till training camp starts.
No, but I remember a couple months ago you had said something about somebody tweeting out that they expected like 18 different teams to have new quarterbacks or something like that, right?
Yeah.
I haven't really been keeping up on that, but I wonder how close to 18 we are right now. Because I know there's a good amount.
Well, in my head, because it would just, changing starters from who started week 1, 2020 to starts week 1, 2021. So, just going down the divisions, not Buffalo. Technically, Miami. New England could, depending on if Mac Jones or Cam starts. The Jets.
Obviously.
AFC North stay in. They're all staying.
Well, is Burrow going to be ready for week 1?
Yeah, he should be.
Okay.
So the Colts, possibly the Texans, the Jags, Broncos are up in the air. The Chargers technically as well, because Tyrod started last year. Eagles, Washington, the Lions, the Bears, the Saints, Panthers, Rams, and that's it.
Yeah, so I think that
counting when I was.
I think that's like 12 or 13. So maybe not the number that they thought, unless 18 wasn't the number. But
there's like 3 or 4 teams that you don't know.
Up in the air, yeah. But that's half the league right there almost, which is crazy.
Yeah, I mean, 4 of the situations were through trade with the Wentz trade and the Stafford trade. So, I mean, actually, 6 were through trade. The Darnold trade as well changed quarterbacks for the Jets and Panthers, even though the Jets were already number 2. But
yeah.
All right. Speaking of quarterbacks, so the Broncos, they reworked Teddy Bridgewater's deal when he got traded. The Panthers are going to pay him $7 million in signing bonus. He gets a $4.25 million base salary, which $3 million is fully guaranteed there. It all comes out to a 1-year, $11.5 million deal. The Broncos, of which are paying $4,437,500. They cut off 2022 because originally he was signed for 2 more years. So he will become a free agent in 2022.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically a tryout for him. And obviously, if he performs well, I could see them re-signing him before the deal is up. But, I mean, he still has to win the job first.
Yeah, if Rodgers isn't traded to Denver.
That too, yeah.
But yeah, we're going to stick with the Broncos here. So this was an interesting situation that popped up last week. The Broncos right tackle, Jawan James, he tore his Achilles. So he's probably going to be done for the year. The Broncos placed him on the non-football injury list because he was working out away from the team facility. So that caused a stir with the NFLPA because no one knows yet what the Broncos are going to do, because Jawan James originally had $10 million in 2021 and $10 million in 2022 guaranteed.
Mm-hmm.
But he could potentially lose all 20 of that because he was working out off-site and got injured. And when you're doing that, it counts as a non-football injury. So you go on the NFI instead of IR. If you were working at the team facility and you tore your Achilles, you go on IR. And however much you had guaranteed for injury is still guaranteed.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, his is not guaranteed anymore because he was off-site working out.
Oof. That really sucks, though.
Which also brought into question because all the, there was a lot of teams that were coming out with statements saying that they weren't going to go to non-mandatory workouts, mini camp, OTAs, until it's mandatory mini camp in June. So I don't know if this is going to change guys' opinions and, make more players show up for non-mandatory stuff because, if they get hurt, they're still covered. But we'll have to see.
Yeah, I mean, but I feel like that was just probably a really freak accident because you don't really hear too many stories of people getting injured, especially to that extent when they're working out. So I don't know what, do you know exactly what he was doing?
No.
It just says it was a workout related injury. So,
yeah,
I mean, yeah. So I don't know if it's really going to affect too many people, but yeah, I don't know. I also think it kind of sucks that the NFL can come out and be like, well, if you don't work out at our facilities, then you're not going to get paid, pretty much. If you get injured, obviously.
Yeah, because that's what the NFL came out and said that, it is in this article, this section, paragraph, sentence of the CBA that your salary is it's called paragraph 5 salary is essentially what base salary is called in the CBA. But your paragraph 5 salary is not guaranteed if you are injured working away from the team facility. That's the gist of what it says. So, yeah, it's going to be a fight. And, well, I think Tom Brady said something about it too. I don't remember what he exactly said, but I'm pretty sure I remember his name popping up in that conversation. And I saw someone on Twitter said too, well, as the NFLPA, why are you mad about this now when you had however long y'all were negotiating with the NFL over the CBA and this didn't come up then? So it's granted, as we have learned in sport management, every CBA negotiation, each side has X amount of things that they want to get out of that current cycle of negotiations. And so. Okay. Going back to your Jets, Chris, this is on the bad side of your Jets here. So, Quinnen Williams, he had surgery on his foot for a broken bone. He's going to be sidelined 8 to 10 weeks. No OTAs, no mini camp for Quinnen there.
Yeah, as long as he's ready for the preseason and all that, and the major parts of the season, I don't think it'll be that big of a deal. Because obviously he's one of the key pieces to that defensive line. I mean, yeah, it sucks that he's going to miss the beginning of the new coaching and all that. But, I mean, just because he has a broken foot or whatever and is recovering from the surgery doesn't mean that, especially towards the end of the recovery, he won't be around the facility and stuff. So he just won't be able to participate in the workouts. Which, yeah, that, like I said, it kind of sucks. But as long as he's good to go for the season, I don't really care.
Yeah, and I guess he had been, I guess, dealing with that in the season. I don't think I heard that he broke it during the off season.
No, I don't think he broke it during the season though. I think he was just dealing with something with his foot, and then I don't know. I thought he recently broke it. I don't know.
Well, that's what because I was thinking that he was the guy that I heard that had happened to, because it was different for Quinnen because he was working out at the team facility. But I don't remember if he was the one that I heard that happened to, or if it was someone else.
It might have been him. I can't remember anybody else, but yeah.
Yeah. So, like I said, different there. He was at the facility working out. Gets hurt, you're good. So, all right, let's get to some money, which now Lions center Frank Ragnow has quite a bit of it. Detroit signed him to a 4-year, $54 million extension. He is now the highest paid center in football, $13.5 million per year in new money, $25.5 million fully guaranteed signing bonus, also $42 million in total guarantees for Frank Ragnow. Yeah,
that's some serious money for an offensive lineman. I mean, obviously, I know like center and left tackle are probably two of the more important offensive line positions, but yeah, and Ragnow is one of the better ones, but I wouldn't say he's deserving of the highest paid center in the league.
Well, I don't know who it was. I don't know if it was Jason Kelce still or not, because I know at one point, the last couple of years, Jason Kelce was the highest paid center when he signed his new deal with the Eagles a couple years ago. But yeah, I don't know if anyone had passed him in between his deal and the Frank Ragnow deal. And I
can't think of it unless did the Rodney Hudson, when he went to the Cardinals, did he rework a deal or anything?
He might have been. Yeah, maybe. I just remember, back when Alex Mack was the highest paid center in football with the Falcons when he signed in free agency from the Browns.
Mm-hmm.
Now he's in San Francisco. So, all right, back to the quarterback well here. So this is kind of surprising, but the Bucks re-signed Blaine Gabbert. So I'm assuming that spells that is not good news for Ryan Griffin, because Kyle Trask is going to make the team.
Mm-hmm.
And I would assume Blaine Gabbert is going to make the team. The only thing I could see is they're going to keep Trask as number 3, and they're going to have Gabbert versus Griffin for the number 2 in training camp.
Yeah, I mean that's the only reason why I could see them re-signing him, because they're obviously not going to keep 4.
Yeah,
and like you said, Trask is obviously making the team, and Brady, unless some unforeseen freak thing happens to him, he's making the team.
Someone's going to trade 5 first-round picks in training camp.
I mean, if it puts your team in the Super Bowl, as much as I hate Brady, he has that effect on the teams that he goes to. I
Yeah.
might pay that price. But anyway, yeah, that's the only reason I could think of why they would re-sign Gabbert to have a competition for the backup spot, because obviously I don't think they would have Trask as the backup.
Yeah.
Because they want to sit him. They don't want him to play at all this year. Which I think is a good idea, especially behind a guy like Tom Brady. So if something were to happen to Brady, though, they need an experienced NFL backup. And the two guys that they have on the roster are two pretty good, solid backup options, too. Obviously, Gabbert's been in the league a while now, and so is Griffin. Griffin, I think, is the longest tenured Buck, right? I think I heard. So yeah, I mean, they're both good options. I don't know who's going to win out the job, but because who was the backup last year? Was it Gabbert or was it Griffin? It was Gabbert.
Yeah, it was Blaine Gabbert. I expect Blaine Gabbert to win the competition if that's what it is.
Yeah, if it's a competition, yeah. Otherwise, I think they would just flat out cut Griffin now that they have Gabbert back. But
yeah, because in my mind as well, I was thinking, but I was like, because I was thinking, how it was last year, where there were such things as COVID quarterbacks. But I highly doubt that'll be the case this year. So there would be no need for a fourth quarterback. But actually, though, I believe the NFL is keeping the practice squad rules the same. So they could keep Brian Griffin on the practice squad as one of those couple spots where you're allowed to have guys that are veterans.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Releases. So the Raiders, they finally released safety Jeff Heath. I still don't know why Jeff Heath has it, how he keeps getting jobs. I am not a big Jeff Heath fan, so,
No.
especially when he was with the Cowboys. But I just never thought he was that great. So, yeah, he's looking for a job again, though. So,
He might not ever get another one.
He'll probably find someone. Someone will find him.
Maybe the Cowboys.
No, I think they drafted two safeties. Or I don't know. I don't remember actually. But the Dolphins also releasing a safety. This one is more noticeable. Safety Bobby McCain. He got released by the Dolphins. He was a captain for them as well. So leadership role gone for Miami. New guys needing to step up. He visited with Washington today. So
yeah, when I saw that, I was very confused, especially with the timing of the release. I mean, I didn't look into it too much. Like, I don't know how much he was making or how much he cost or whatever. But to release a guy like that was just a really big and weird move to me.
Well, I believe they drafted guys. That's why.
I know, but still, it's just to release one of the leaders on the team, regardless if you drafted his replacement or whatever. Again, unless it was some sort of financial reason, I don't know why they didn't keep him through training camp and then see how the other guys did. Because if they drafted like a safety and he's a bust, then they kind of just released Mccain for nothing.
Yeah. We'll see. The Cowboys, they waived defensive tackle Antoine Woods last week. He visited with the Colts today, trying to bolster their defensive line depth. But yeah, Antoine Woods was an interesting case as well because they re-signed him as a restricted free agent before the draft. They drafted two defensive tackles, and now they're like, you're gone.
Yeah, he could have been looking in free agency all along, and then But I feel like that's what happens a lot. It's just not as noticeable sometimes. But obviously, since free agency is before the draft, they sign some players or try to keep some players. And then when the draft comes and happens, they end up getting the players that they maybe thought they weren't going to get.
Yeah.
And then they end up releasing the guy that they had signed in free agency.
Yeah. Another guy getting waived. Big name. Lions. They waived running back Kerryon Johnson. He is now a member of the Philadelphia Eagles. He was claimed off of waivers by Philadelphia. And the Eagles' back room is fantastic right now. Backfield is fantastic. Miles Sanders, Jordan Howard, Boston Scott, Kenneth Gainwell, and Kerryon Johnson.
Yeah, that I'm not surprised that Johnson didn't last long on the market, or he didn't even make it to the market. He got claimed off waivers, but I'm not surprised that he got claimed off waivers. I am somewhat surprised, though, that the Eagles were the team to go and get him because, like you said, they already had a loaded backfield. And, I mean, he just adds to it. But now they have 5 guys that I assume they're going to have to probably end up cutting 2 of them.
I think 1. They'll keep 4, I believe. Usually the Eagles keep 4. But I was having this discussion with people this weekend about it, and they didn't agree with me, but I thought that the decision eventually will come down to Jordan Howard and Kerryon Johnson because I think those guys are the power backs. Only really need 1, technically.
Mm-hmm.
Miles Sanders can do it all. Boston Scott's more your receiving threat. Kenneth Gainwell is also better at receiving than he is in between the tackles.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously he's a 5th-round pick, so
yeah, I mean, I don't know. Obviously Miles Sanders is I think the number 1 back. He's staying. He's the starter. And I mean, you do make an interesting point between those 2. But and I also, even though like you said, Gainwell was a 5th-round pick, I tend to think that general managers don't like to cut the guys that they just drafted too often. So I think that he has a little bit of a safety net there. So I think he'll end up making the team, which also might make Boston Scott expendable. So I think it'll be between either Boston Scott or one of those 2 guys that you mentioned.
Yeah. All right. Some free agency moves here. Ravens made the move that we all knew was coming. They signed Steelers offensive tackle Alejandro Villanueva to a 2-year, $14 million deal, $8 million fully guaranteed. Stays in division. Not very happy that that happened, but the Steelers did not want to re-sign Villanueva. They wanted to roll with their younger guys, Zach Banner at right tackle, Chuck Okorafor at left tackle. So,
yeah, I mean, it's kind of a curious move to me. Both that the Steelers didn't want to keep Villanueva, and also that the Ravens signed him. Obviously, they did have that hole at left tackle, or not at left tackle, at right tackle. Now that they traded Orlando Brown, but I don't know. I mean, isn't Villanueva's on the older side, isn't he?
Yeah, he's I believe 33.
Yeah, so he's getting towards the end of his career, which, I mean, if he can still play, that's good. But I would tend to rather go with the younger guys, unless it was like Pittsburgh's situation where I think they should have kept him because of the familiarity with Roethlisberger and all that. And I mean, Roethlisberger already lost his center, so now he lost his tackle as well. So I don't know.
Yeah, and the Ravens did not draft a tackle. The only offensive lineman they drafted was a guard. So Also, tackle news here. The Colts, they got their new blindside protector for Carson Wentz, signing Chiefs left tackle Eric Fisher, 1 year, $9.4 million deal. He will still. They feel good about his rehab. He won't be ready for the season. Ian Rappaport said he's probably going to be ready to play around early October. So probably going to miss at least the first quarter of the season.
Yeah, I mean, that's not too bad. So if he misses 4 or 5 games, he's still got like 12 or 13 games left, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So he's going to still play a large chunk of the season. Plus, that chunk of the season that he misses, they can also see what they have in-house already at left tackle, which I know that it probably don't have much, but yeah, I think that this is a good deal for both sides because it's a nice prove-it deal for Fisher that he can still play and he's healthy and all that. But it's also a good financial move for the Colts. And like I said, it gives them a chance to see what they have before actually having Fisher on the field.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I can't remember who they have there still because last time I knew it was LaRaven Clark. Was the backup offensive tackle, but I am not exactly sure without looking at their depth chart right now. Chiefs, they signed Broncos safety Will Parks, 1 year, $1.13 million deal there. Keep adding to the secondary. Will Parks, a very solid, I would say, safety 3. Also is very good on special teams. The Dolphins, they signed corner Jason McCourty to a 1-year deal. There you go, Chris. You were asking earlier, a couple weeks ago, where Jason McCourty's going to go.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of not surprised because now he reunites with his former defensive coordinator there in Miami. And he just follows the path that a few other Patriots players have done over the last couple of years. So, yeah, I'm not surprised by the move. But I mean, I hadn't heard anything about him or Miami being interested in him until I saw that he got signed by them. But, yeah.
I don't know how much he has left. That's my question. The Texans, they signed your Jets linebacker Neville Hewitt to a 1-year deal.
Yeah, I mean, the Jets have a much better core of players this year than they did last year, but Neville Hewitt was one of the standouts from the team last year. So I am kind of sad to see him go, but at the same time, I mean, obviously the new regime didn't like what they saw from him. And I mean, obviously Joe Douglas was there last year. So if he really liked him that much, he would have re-signed him already. But he now he's in Houston with 100 other free agents that they've signed.
So I was just going to say, I'm not surprised. Texans are in on every free agent. So.
Yeah, they already signed a couple other Jets players too. So they're the Jets South apparently.
All right, and I think this was the biggest news of today. Tim Tebow is back. He hasn't signed officially yet, but is expected to sign with the Jacksonville Jaguars to play as a tight end. He is 33 years old now. And he hasn't played a game in 3,053 days.
Yeah, I did those calculations before, and that's over 8 years. So,
yeah,
it's just over 8 years.
Yeah, so
I mean, it's not like he hasn't been active and just sitting on his couch though. He was playing minor league baseball over the last couple of years, and
Yeah, I
yeah,
mean,
it's cool to see him back in the league now. But I'm curious. They say he's coming in as a tight end, but I wonder if he's almost going to take sort of like a Taysom Hill kind of role, and
that's what I
sometimes
heard.
line up as the quarterback and other things like that.
That's what I heard. That Urban sort of plans to do some of those things with him. It was interesting. There was a prop bet put out on DraftKings Sportsbook for yes or no, will Tebow catch a touchdown from Trevor Lawrence in the 2021-2022 season? And it was pretty good odds. It was, I think, plus 1,800 or something like that. So $180 on a $10 bet.
Is he going to be the starting tight end though? Like, who do they even have at tight end? I can't even think.
No, he will not be the starting tight end. They, because they signed, or actually, looking at their, he could with those names. They did draft Luke Farrell out of Ohio State. I believe that was in the 3rd round, actually. But other tight ends on the roster, Chris Manhertz, who they signed from Carolina, more of an H-back there, and James O'Shaughnessy, who they've had for a little bit.
Yeah, because I know all throughout the draft process, tight end was one of their biggest needs. I think behind, obviously, quarterback, and I think tackle was the second most needed position. But I think tight end was also up there. So,
and Urban drafted one of his guys from Ohio State.
Yep.
So,
but you just read off the depth chart, and obviously, I think the only one that's got any shot. Well, I can't say the only one, but I think the one that has the best shot is the guy that they just drafted from Ohio State. And then obviously O'Shaughnessy, who's been there already. But Tebow has a legit shot of playing getting a lot of snaps.
Yeah, I mean, that also probably includes undrafted free agents. I don't. They usually don't show many of the undrafted on the depth charts on ESPN, but yeah. So the real question is will Tebowing make a comeback in 2021?
With social media the way it is now, I guarantee you it's going to become a thing again.
Especially when he comes out week 1 and catches a touchdown.
I think that the bigger and like more interesting prop bet would be, is Tebow going to throw a touchdown to Trevor Lawrence this year?
That could be interesting. That's probably very long odds, I would assume. We're going back to your Jets, Chris. The Browns, they claimed kicker Chase McLaughlin off waivers from the Jets. So the Jets, who's their kicker now again?
They have, I think they still have the guy from Dallas. What's his name? I can't think of his name now.
Oh, Maher.
Yeah, they have him, and they have their guy from last year, Sam Pickett. So I think it's between those two guys right now.
I think Chase McLaughlin is better than both of those. So
apparently they
did. From what I saw from Chase in Indianapolis when Adam Vinatieri was hurt, as well as he kicked for San Francisco a couple games before and was efficient as well. Other kicker news here. The Colts, they worked out Bears kicker Eddie Pinheiro. Wasn't odd to work out, I thought Hot Rod had solidified himself after last season's performance in his rookie year. I don't know. I hope Rodrigo's spot is secured, but who knows?
I mean, if it's not there though, he'll get another shot somewhere else, I think.
Oh yeah.
Hey, come to New York. The Jets need a kicker, so.
The Lions, they hosted Texans tight end Darren Fells for a visit. I think tight end is probably a need for Detroit. I can't think of who they have right now. And Darren Fells actually,
but I don't know who else.
That's true. He's on my dynasty team. I should know that. And Darren Fells actually played there in 2017. I couldn't think of where Darren Fells had been.
Yeah, I mean, Fells has been in the league a while, and I don't think he really has had that great of a career until he was in Houston. So, I don't know. I can see why he's not signed, but at the same time, I'm kind of surprised he hasn't been signed yet because he did have a couple breakout seasons there with Houston. So,
I believe he played for the Cardinals, as far as I can remember.
I think so.
Other than that, I don't know. The Broncos, they hosted Titans offensive tackle Dennis Kelly for a visit. That was because of the Jawan James situation, needing a right tackle now. Dennis Kelly, probably one of the best tackle options available currently. So the other offensive tackle guy that's available right now is Bears offensive tackle Charles Leno Jr. He is visiting with Washington today. I would think that Washington would sign him almost immediately because they have a massive hole that they never filled at left tackle after the Trent Williams trade last year. Did draft Sam Cosmi in the second round, but they would like to sit him and put him as the swing tackle and not have him play that much this year.
Yeah, I mean, Leno, I think, is the best tackle available right now. In general, not just left tackle, but tackle in general. So, yeah, a team like Washington with that big of a hole, I think he's a perfect fit there for them. And yeah, like you said, they do have Cosmi, but they don't want him to play right now. So, yeah, why not go out and get Leno?
Yeah. And then lastly here, the Dolphins, they hosted Colt safety Malik Hooker for a visit. That was last week. They did release Bobby McCain. So maybe going cheaper with Hooker might be an option there for Miami.
I don't know. But I still remember going back to – because he was drafted when we were in Philly. And so I feel like I have like somewhat of a special connection with a lot of those first round guys from that year because we were there watching them get drafted and stuff. So I'm kind of rooting for all of them. But Hooker is one of the ones I'm surprised to this point hasn't really worked out. Because I remember he and Adams were very hyped up pre-draft.
Yeah, definitely. Never worked out in Indianapolis. All right. That is all I have for news. Did not see anything else on the Twitter feed. So we're going to roll here. And we're not doing Would You Rather for the next however many Monday shows that we do the draft recaps because we want to give time to talk about each of the four teams' drafts. So it's kind of funny because I put them in order of pick here by their team, the first round picks. But on my sheet, I have them in reverse order, how we're doing the draft series in inverse order of the first round. So I don't know which way we want to go to start talking about them. What do you think, Chris?
I mean, we might as well go based on what it shows up here, just for sake of consistency here.
So I'm going to get confused looking backwards on my sheet. Cool. So you can go first to talk about the Falcons because, I'm going to talk about the Panthers. So first.
Yeah, I mean, pre-draft, I feel like there was a lot of intrigue with the Falcons pick because there was so many options. This was pretty much where the draft started. So they could have gone any option, but obviously they went with, I think, who most people thought they were going to pick with Kyle Pitts there. And, I mean, it was kind of hard not to pick him. Obviously, they had much bigger needs than tight end, but Pitts was widely regarded as the best non-quarterback in this draft. And he just makes that offense even better than it already is. They still have Julio as of right now. They have Calvin Ridley as the number 2. They have Mike Davis at running back. We finally remember that. And now they have Pitts and they have Hayden Hurst, I think, or who was their? Yeah, they have Hayden Hurst, right, as their other tight end.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty loaded offense. Granted, they still had a loaded offense last year, but their defense couldn't stop anybody, so it didn't matter. But I don't know. I like that pick of Pitts.
Well, so here, I'll go through the entire draft here. First round, they got Kyle Pitts. Second was Richie Grant, safety out of UCF.
Mm-hmm.
Third round, they got offensive tackle Jalen Mayfield out of Michigan. 2 fourth-round picks, corner Darren Hall out of San Diego State. Center Drew Dahlman out of Stanford. 3 fifth-rounders, defensive tackle Taquan Graham from Texas. Edge rusher Ade Tacombo Ogundeji from Notre Dame, and corner Avery Williams from Boise State. And then their last pick was a 6th-rounder, wide receiver Frank Darby out of Arizona State.
Yeah, so their draft overall, though, I really like too, especially their early round picks, like Richie Grant, who a lot of people had as the number 1 safety. And they were able to get him at, what would that be, 36
40.
or something? Oh, it's 40? Oh, yeah, because and then a guy that I'm surprised fell as far as he did was Jalen Mayfield in the 3rd round. So I think that was a bit of a steal for them to get him in the 3rd round there. And, yeah, they did fill a lot of their needs. Like I said, it was mostly defense that they needed, but I think Richie Grant adds a lot to that secondary. And the only thing that they didn't address, which I'm kind of surprised, is that they didn't address the future at the quarterback position like some of these other teams in the division did.
Yeah. Because they did sign AJ McCarron. That's the only other quarterback that it's showing on the depth chart on ESPN. The thing that I look at as far as draft choices, even though I know it's way too early to actually know, but I look at automatically what draft picks and put in starting spots.
Mm-hmm.
ESPN puts 2. They have 2 of the Falcons in starting spots. Kyle Pitts, obviously, and Richie Grant at safety. Now, I think that Ogundeji could be a starter as well, opposite Dante Fowler, because right now, the starter opposite Fowler is Jacob Tuioti Mariner, which I know.
No idea who that is.
Yeah, I know. I know not many people know who he is. USC guy. Also interesting, though, I read off Taquan Graham as a defensive tackle, right?
Mm-hmm.
ESPN has him as the 3rd string will linebacker, And the Falcons are on a base 4-3. So that's a stand-up guy.
Yeah.
And, highly doubt that will happen. I checked on it. He's 6'4", 294. Okay.
I mean,
no, he's a linebacker.
No, but I don't know. Maybe you said he's third on the depth chart. So I don't know. Maybe it's just for an emergency situation.
Well, because he's not listed. He's not listed in the defensive line spots. That's what
I don't know. That is kind of odd, but who knows? Maybe the big man can run.
Yeah. Another thing that I thought, Drew Dahlman is listed as third string at the left guard spot. I have no clue who Matt Gono is, who is currently slated at left guard. So I would think that either Drew Dahlman or Josh Andrews fill that spot. Likely Josh Andrews, I would think. Former Jet, right?
I mean, I don't know if you could really call him a former Jet because I don't think he ever played, but yeah.
Well, I played for the Eagles, so but yeah, Jalen Mayfield, he'll be the swing tackle this year, I believe. They didn't really need a tackle because they have Jake Matthews, Caleb McGarry. I think they needed more interior. Really, only the left guard spot, from what I'm looking at, because Matt Hennessy at center, right guard is Chris Lindstrom. So I think they were everywhere except left guard. But I think the wide receiver depth, they didn't really do a good job of getting that. I thought they should have drafted someone more, earlier than Frank Darby in the 6th. Because after the first 3, you can count Kyle Pitts, I guess, as one as well. So after Russell Gage, though, it's Olamide Zaccheaus, Frank Darby, Christian Blake.
Yeah,
those are the next 3.
I mean, you gotta think of it this way though too, because obviously Kyle Pitts, like we've been saying, he was the number 1 guy there. So you had to take him there over the other receivers. And then the second round, again, like I said, their defense last year was bottom of the barrel. It was one of the worst in the league. So they had to go out and get Richie Grant, which, like I said, you even said he's one of the starters listed right now. So he automatically makes that defense better. So the earliest I could see them going for a receiver would be in round 3, which I don't know who was still there at that point. I can't think off the top of my head, but I don't know if any of the second tier guys were still there.
Yeah, I'm not sure because none of the other 3 teams in the division drafted a 3rd round receiver. So, but yeah, I mean, all in all, I thought it was a pretty good draft. It kind of tailed off. I wasn't too high on the Graham or the Ogundeji or the Darby picks. Darren Hall was iffy for me as well. I liked Drew Dahlman though in the 4th. And I think the best guy, the guy I like the most, other than the top 3 picks, Avery Williams in the 5th round. He is. I don't know if I'm right or not. I'm probably wrong because that's how it usually goes. But I think Avery Williams was the best special teams player in the draft. From what I watched from him at Boise State, I don't know if he's ever going to be a really good defensive player, but his time returning the ball, both punts and kicks, he can block kicks as well. He showed that at Boise State. And he can cover kicks. He literally can be on every single special teams unit, probably except for field goal, I would think.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to get in there and block anyone. But, yeah, I think he is going to be a steal in the 5th round and make the Falcons one of the best special teams units out there.
Yeah, I can see that happen.
And they probably won't show his. I guess NC his NC's what stats here. I'm trying to his career returns, but of course it's only going to show his defensive stats. Yeah, so I don't have his return stats with me, but yeah, he was just electric returning the ball, and like I said, also blocking the ball, blocking kicks as well. I watched him block 2 kicks in the same game at Boise State. He blocked a field goal and he blocked a punt in the same game. Just crazy.
Yeah, I mean, obviously special teams is probably the most underrated part of football, especially the defensive side of special teams. So guys like him kind of get overlooked in that department, but to add a guy like that on your special teams, you're gonna win a lot of the special teams battles.
Yeah, and that's what day 3 picks are all about, though.
Yeah.
If you don't, it's hard to draft the guy on day 3 that doesn't play special teams.
Yeah,
because that's what makes the difference from guys that get drafted on day 3 to guys that go undrafted. A lot of the times, teams don't see the potential for these guys to play special teams, and that's why they go undrafted. So. Okay. That's the Falcons. Chris, do we want to actually give letters out or not?
We could do that at the end when we finish all 4, and then we can rank them and say what our grade is or whatever.
Okay. So the Panthers had the most picks. 11 total draft selections here. I was actually kind of surprised. All 4 teams in the division, the Saints had the fewest at 6, but they all had a good amount of draft picks. Saints was 6, Bucks had 7, Panthers had 11, and the Falcons 9. 9 picks for the Falcons as well. So,
I feel like most teams had a solid amount of draft picks, though, except for like the NFC West with Seattle and LA not having a lot, and the Texans as well only having a couple.
We'll see when we get to that. Well, the Texans actually did have, I believe, 6 picks. 5. So.
Yeah, but they didn't select until like 86 or something like that. So that severely hurt them.
Rams as well had a decent amount of picks for only selecting in the 2nd round to start. Obviously, the Seahawks were the worst overall with only 3. But we've seen the Saints there before. A couple years ago, Saints only had 3 total. So,
and the one year when they only had 1 because they traded their entire draft for Ricky Williams.
All right. So the Panthers, though, I said this before when we did our show just after the draft, and I'm in love with the Panthers draft. I thought they've hit home runs 2 years in a row now, with 2 different GMs, mind you. This year we had Scott Fitter. Last year, I don't know why I can't think of the guy's name right now. I don't know why.
I don't know, but I think that Matt Rule has a very, very powerful voice in that room. I think the GMs actually listen to him with what he wants to do. I mean, obviously last year they went all defense and with all their picks. This year they might have mixed it up a little bit, but obviously with their first pick, they still went defense. which I think, to me, it was a questionable move that they picked J.C. Horn with the number 8 pick. For one, because it was a cornerback, and I mean, I think they had decent depth at cornerback, especially with the fact that they just signed AJ Boye right before the draft. And then also the fact that it was J.C. Horn instead of Patrick Surtain. But I don't know. I know you kind of liked that pick, though.
Yeah, I mean, I was okay with either guy. I still thought it was going to be Rashawn Slater instead when he slid down to 8, which I would have loved as well, considering they needed a left tackle. Currently, their left tackle is Cam Irving, which is fine. He'll fight with Greg Little, I believe, this year to get that spot. But running down their picks, J.C. Horn in the first out of South Carolina, wide receiver Terrace Marshall in the second out of LSU, 2 third-rounders, offensive tackle Brady Christensen out of BYU, tight end Tommy Tremble out of Notre Dame, 4th-rounder running back Chuba Hubbard out of Oklahoma State, 2 fifths defensive tackle Davion Nixon out of Iowa, corner Keith Taylor out of Washington, 3 sixths guards Deontay Brown out of Alabama, wide receiver Shi Smith out of South Carolina, long snapper Thomas Fletcher out of Alabama, and then 1 7th-rounder defensive tackle Phil Hoskins out of Kentucky. It's funny, when I was writing their picks down, they all drafted like from the same schools. Notre Dame, Alabama, Kentucky, and Florida had a bunch too. Stanford as well. There's a couple of Houstons, a couple of BYUs, drafting from the same schools. But literally the only pick I probably didn't like was the last 2. The long snapper and Phil Hoskins. The long snapper I didn't really like just because I love J.J. Jansen. He's been with the Panthers for his whole career. He is older, in his 30s now, but I think JJ's pretty good. So
long snappers are people too.
But you know, the Panthers did what the Jets did not do for Sam Darnold. They got him what he wanted. Got him Terrace Marshall. Got him Brady Christensen, who, like I said, is probably not going to start at left tackle this year. I think he'll be the 2022 starter at left tackle, though. Got him Tommy Tremble because they needed a tight end. They also picked up Dan Arnold in free agency. They have Ian Thomas with a solid tight end core there. They picked up a new backup for Christian McCaffrey and Chuba Hubbard. And then they also went back and got some interior offensive line depth in Deontay Brown, Shi Smith as well, great punt returner and depth receiver as well. So I think this draft was pretty, people thought it was about J.C. Horn in the first, but I think when you look at their entire draft, it was really, all right, let's go build around Sam Darnold and get pieces.
Yeah, I think overall they had a really good draft. Like you said, I don't want to repeat too much of your points, but they went out and got him another 3 new weapons, Terrace Marshall, Tommy Tremble, and Chuba Hubbard. And I guess you could say they got him protection with Brady Christensen. But like you said, he's probably not going to start this year, so I don't know how much he's actually going to play. But yeah, now we really will see if Darnold was the problem or if Adam Gase was the problem in New York. I think it might have been a little bit of both, but I don't know. We'll have to see how things work out for Darnold there in Carolina. But I think this is definitely the best team that he's been on in his professional career so far.
Yeah. I mean, I thought that obviously I think Joe Brady's offense is a lot more fun to play in anyways, especially if you're a quarterback that's not named Teddy Bridgewater, because he was good in the offense last year, but someone with a better arm like Darnold, more athletic. Maybe he's not as athletic as Teddy, but I don't think Teddy's where he was pre-injury in Minnesota. But even though I'm kind of going against what I said with the Falcons, because with the thing where I kind of judge based off how many guys are going to start week 1, which ESPN only has one guy, and that's JC Horn in a starting role right now. But I think it's going to be at least 2. I have no reason to doubt that Terrace Marshall won't be the number 3 receiver.
I was going to say, who's the receiving depth chart right now?
Yeah, they have David Moore as a starter at wide receiver 3, who they signed from Seattle. But yeah, I think their top 6 is pretty good with Robbie Anderson, DJ Moore, David Moore, Terrace Marshall, Brandon Zylstra, Shai Smith. They also have a guy that they signed last year as an undrafted free agent that I like, but obviously he's probably not going to make the team. Omar Bayless out of Arkansas State. But yeah, the defensive guys, though, Davion Nixon, he's listed as 3rd string right now. I don't know if he'll stay there or not. Because I think I'm not set on Bravion Roy being the starter next to Derek Brown inside.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's going to be a camp battle. Bravion Roy, Davion Nixon, and Daquan Jones, I think all could vie for that other defensive tackle spot there.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I don't know. Well, another guy, even though he was not drafted, but he was one of their top undrafted free agents, and it's my guy. That's why I'm going to say it, include him. Patty Fisher, linebacker out of Northwestern, thought he could get drafted, went undrafted, but Panthers picked him up. He is currently the backup to Denzel Perriman as the middle linebacker. I think he'll make the team. Yeah, I love Patty Fisher though.
I mean, that's pretty solid to get a guy like that as an undrafted free agent. And I mean, he's the backup right now, but I think even as the backup, he could make a solid impact on the team.
Yeah. I mean, well, Denzel Perriman has had injuries before, so wouldn't surprise me. Other guy, the only one that I think I haven't talked about is Keith Taylor out of Washington. He's probably a sleeper. I mean, the Panthers have done a good job recently of loading up their secondary. So he's listed as a 3rd stringer right now, behind Rashawn Melvin and Dante Jackson. But, Washington is like DBU. I mean, they've produced a hell of a lot of corners in the last couple of years. So I would not be surprised if we see Keith Taylor in, not getting starter reps, but in a meaningful depth role as in a sub package, maybe a nickel or dime set.
Yeah.
So especially dime. I think nickel, I don't know if he'll get many snaps at nickel. Well, he might early on, because AJ Boye is suspended for, I believe, the first 2.
I think so. Something like that.
He might get nickel reps then, but I think after Boye comes back, I think he'll slide into more dime sets in the 6 DBs. Because they also have Troy Pride as well, who they drafted last year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That is all the Panthers. Gonna slide on down to the Saints, and before you go, I'll read them off. First round, edge rusher Peyton Turner out of Houston. Second, they got linebacker Pete Warner out of Ohio State. Third round was Paulson Adebo, the corner out of Stanford. Fourth round, quarterback Ian Book out of Notre Dame. Sixth, offensive tackle Landon Young out of Kentucky. And then seventh, wide receiver Kawan Baker out of South Alabama.
Yeah, so for the Saints, I don't know. I was iffy about their draft. Starting with their first rounder right there, Peyton Turner. I thought that there was better options on the board at that point, even at edge rusher. I would have liked to see them go after a guy like Azeez Ojulari, who slipped into the second round there with the Giants. I did, however, I liked their second round pick there with Pete Warner. I mean, Ohio State has had a good history of producing NFL linebackers, so I was pretty happy with that pick, and I think that he'll work out there. Obviously, they're going to have a big hole at linebacker probably after this year with all the contracts expiring. With Demario Davis and I'm blanking on who the other linebackers are right now, but yeah, I think that he's going to make a pretty good impact. And then also, I like their third round pick with Paulson Adebo as well, the corner. I was kind of surprised to see him still sitting there in the third round, that late in the third round. And yeah, they were able to scoop him up, and I think he'll make. I don't know if he's going to be the starter right away. They have Lattimore and can't think of who the second corner is right now.
C.J. Gardner-Johnson.
Oh yes. So I don't know if he'll start right away. Maybe he'll be the slot corner. I don't know. But yeah, I think that he'll eventually turn into something good. As for their selection of Ian Book, that was probably my biggest issue with their draft. Because I mean, obviously they just lost one of the greatest quarterbacks ever with Drew Brees, but they have Jameis Winston right now, and I guess you could still say they have Taysom Hill. Even though I don't really like when Hill plays quarterback, but yeah, even like we've talked about it before, the experts even said that Ian Book has a ceiling of a backup in the NFL. So I don't know, maybe the Saints saw something that somebody else didn't, or they think that they can push that ceiling or something, but I didn't like that pick at all. And then go ahead, what?
No, well, I don't know if you're going to go onto the next two, or.
Well, those were really the guys I wanted to talk about, like just the ones that I've already talked about. So,
yeah, I mean, I do think that I like Ian Book. He's gritty. He is a winner, winningest quarterback in Notre Dame history. But I kind of think that the Saints are grooming a guy who they already groomed in Chase Daniel. And I mean, you can also count Luke McCown as well. They've groomed quite a bunch of young backup quarterbacks throughout their time in Sean Payton's time there. But yeah, I think Ian Book has a shot, as a career backup with the potential. He had the issues with Ian Book are limited arm strength. He has pretty good mobility. And like I said, my biggest thing with him that I love is his toughness. So,
yeah, but no, just a quick point to your thing though. being the winningest quarterback in school history or whatever, that could be misleading. Like, I hate that wins are associated with the quarterback, because it's kind of like the same thing with pitchers in baseball. The win or loss isn't necessarily always the quarterback's fault. Like, the quarterback could have his best game ever, but if his defense gives up just as many points, they still might lose the game.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. I don't really like I don't really like that argument, but at the same time, if it was mainly because of him, though, like, if he actually produced and like played well on the field, then yeah, he probably does deserve credit for some of the wins, but still.
Well, he didn't play well in the biggest losing to Georgia in Athens, which is tough, that place to play, but also 2 college football playoff appearances, getting routed both times by Clemson and Alabama. So
2 very tough teams to play, though, but still.
Well, they got destroyed in the ACC championship game this year too, against Clemson. So, all right. My thoughts on the Saints draft are similar to yours. Peyton Turner, I thought, was questionable. I was hearing that teams thought he was going to go in the first anyways. So, at 28, not a horrible selection. However, he is not listed as a starter currently, because their first rounder from 2019, Marcus Davenport, is listed as the opposite defensive end of Cam Jordan. The one guy who is a draftee of the Saints that is a starter is Pete Werner at middle linebacker. Their first rounder from last year, Zach Vaughn, or was he second? I don't remember.
I think he was second.
Oh yeah, Cesar Ruiz last year was their first.
Yes.
But yeah, Zach Vaughn listed as the other starter there, to go along with Demario Davis. Linebacker is going to be an issue though. If one of those 3 gets hurt, it is slim pickings, man. Because I don't even know who these guys are. Even at the second string. Caden Ellis, Andrew Dowell, and Chase Hansen are the 3 backups at the linebacker positions.
Yeah, that's one of the weakest positions on the Saints. And, I mean, they did address it, but they definitely need more depth there.
And then when you get to third string, I actually have heard of this guy, Marcus Willoughby. I have heard of him. Not too familiar with him, but I've heard the name. And Winton McManus. But yeah, Paulson Adebo, I do think he'll start by the end of the year, possibly. So, well, the thing is with the Saints is that they do have Patrick Robinson, so I don't know if Paulson Adebo is necessarily going to start in the slot role. He might learn from Patrick Robinson, maybe pick up the slot halfway through the season or something like that. I will shout out another undrafted guy that is listed as a starter, though, even though, like I said, Patty Fisher wasn't listed as a starter, but he's backup. But they do have an undrafted guy that is listed as a starter. And even better, he's a Penn State guy. Blake Gillikin, the new punter for the New Orleans Saints. Granted, he's not the punter yet. Nolan Cooney is also listed as a punter there. No, that is. Never heard of Nolan Cooney. But, yeah, Blake Gillikin.
It's going to be weird having a new punter there in New Orleans, though.
Yeah.
But, yeah. They got some big shoes to fill, quite literally.
Yeah, I was surprised that they didn't go receiver at all in the draft until late with DeJuan Baker, who I'm not too familiar with. I mean, obviously they believe in their guys, Deontay Harris, Juwan Johnson, Lil Jordan Humphrey, Marquez Callaway as well. So,
well, that's kind of like I have that kind of similar argument like I had with the Falcons. I mean, I think that they could have, even maybe should have gone receiver in the first round instead of going for Peyton Turner, because they had guys like Elijah Moore, who the Jets picked at 34, and they got Terrace Marshall there too. They had a couple other guys too that they could have grabbed there at number 28. But yeah, they. But I don't blame them for taking Warner though in the second round. And like I said with the Falcons as well, I don't know if there was any solid guys there for the Saints in the third round. So I don't know if they could have gotten anybody worth the third round pick there.
Well, I know in the second round, Terrace Marshall went right before the Saints. Saints had the 60th pick. The Panthers took him at 59. So they picked Pete Warner instead. But yeah. Well, we'll also have to see how the tight end position shakes out for the Saints this year. First year of Adam Troutman starting, former second round pick there, or third. I don't know why I can never remember some of these guys' rounds. Third round. Know, I believe he is third round, number 80 overall.
Anything can be better than Jared Cook was last year, though. So.
Hey, Jared Cook has been a fantastic player
over his career, but not last year with the Saints. He dropped a very crucial pass last year against the Buccaneers in the playoffs that ended up into an interception there.
I know how it is. Alshon Jeffrey did the same in the 2018 playoffs against the Saints. So, yeah, I don't know. I think the Saints will be very happy in 2022 when Drew Brees is finally off the books. And they don't have a massive cap charge. Even not playing in 2021, I forget what the amount is that he's still on the books for. But it is a big amount. I'm pretty. So,
I think they lightened it a little bit though with converting the salary and stuff to a signing bonus, but I still think it's a big number. I can't remember what though.
Yeah, because I mean they have a lot of work to do. I think their starters and Sean Payton can keep them competitive, but if one of the two quarterbacks is not the guy, obviously they're going to get that guy next year. But just looking at their depth chart, man, I mean, they need a lot of depth. Defensive line depth is needed. Offense, both lines, offense and defense. A lot of depth needed there. As well as receiver, like I said. But yeah, I do not think that I don't think the Saints are winning the division. They might not even finish second, depending on how it goes.
It'll be a tough year.
So, all right.
On how Jameis Winston plays.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, lastly, let's move on to the defending Super Bowl champs, Tampa Bay Bucks. All right, first round, edge rusher Joe Tryon out of Washington. Second round, quarterback Kyle Trask out of Florida. Third round, offensive tackle Robert Hainsey out of Notre Dame. Fourth round, wide receiver Jalen Darden out of North Texas. Fifth round, linebacker KJ Britt out of Auburn. 2 7th rounders, corner Chris Wilcox out of BYU, and linebacker Grant Stewart out of Houston, who was Mr. Irrelevant. Congrats, Grant Stewart. So Joe Tryon, just like Peyton Turner we kind of shook our heads at the pick in the first round. Obviously, we said they needed to get their eventual replacement for Jason Pierre-Paul. So in that stance, I thought they did well there. I still thought they could have went Kyle Trask in the first round. But they got a steal all the way in the last pick of the second round. Quarterback of the future, possibly. We'll have to see. I believe in Kyle Trask. Offensive line depth with Robert Hainsey there. Probably my favorite pick, other than Kyle Trask, though, is Jalen Darden. I know they didn't really need receivers, and he might have a tough time making the team, but I think he will make the team ultimately based off his return ability. He is the all-time leading receiver at North Texas, both touchdowns, catches, and receptions. So very good receiver that they got all the way in the fourth round. He is small, 5'9", 174. But, yeah, I really liked Jalen Darden when he was playing at North Texas there. So,
yeah, I mean, the Bucks were probably, if not the most, or if not the toughest team to pick for, they were one of the toughest teams to pick for because they have so few holes on their team that it was kind of hard to gauge how good their draft actually was. Obviously, like you had already pointed out, their first round pick was questionable. And like I was just thinking about it as you were making your points. I am kind of surprised that they didn't pick Trask in the first round. Because don't they still get that fifth year option even at the last pick?
yeah, all first.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So, I mean, especially with Trask having to sit for at least this year, possibly longer, I'm surprised they didn't want that extra year to work with him. But they did still end up getting him in the end of the second round. And, yeah, like I said, their draft overall was kind of tough to gauge because, I mean, I don't know. Do they have any starters?
No.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought because they literally don't need anybody.
Yeah. A lot of the guys are listed as primary backups. Obviously, with the Blaine Gabbert signing, Kyle Trask is now listed as the fourth string quarterback. I said I don't know if Jalen Darden will make the team, but he actually is listed as the backup to Antonio Brown as a starter at the, starting three wide receivers there. So he's listed in the top 6 right now. We'll have to see what that. Robert Hainsey as well. I had him as a tackle. That's just because that's what NFL.com had him at, but he's listed as the backup to Alex Kappa at right guard. Joe Tryon backing up JPP there. Also, KJ Britt is the backup to Levante David right now in the middle linebacker, in the inside linebacker spot there. So, yeah. I don't know. I think, the Bucks, I would probably put them last. Really, the only guys that I really liked were Kyle Trask and Jalen Darden. KJ Britt was probably the next guy that I would put on my list there. So.
Yeah, I would put them at the bottom as an incomplete because, like we said, they have no starters in the draft class right now. And, I mean, some of them probably will, and
most likely will become starters eventually, but as of right now, they're all backups, so we won't really see much of them, I don't think, this year. And we don't really know how much of an impact they'll have in the immediate future. So that's why I think I would have them at the bottom.
I think their draft class really hinges on, is Kyle Trask the future quarterback or not? Even though he wasn't their first round pick. All right. So next spot is tough. I would probably go with the Saints at number 3. Just because first round pick was, so-so, liked Pete Warner, liked Paulson Adebo. Ian Book so-so as well.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the Saints are also number 3. But I do think they have some of the better picks, though, between these 4 teams, but they don't have like the
complete class.
Yeah. So I think that's why they're at number 3 for me right now.
Yeah, number 2 is the Falcons. Kyle Pitts, home run, Richie Grant, Jalen Mayfield, loved those 3 picks. Also liked Drew Dahlman, and then Avery Williams as well.
Yeah, again, I agree with you. Falcons are number 2. I mean, the Pitts kind of just fell in their laps because of the way the draft started. Had the trade not happened with the 49ers and the Dolphins, it might have been a little different. I still think the Dolphins would have went receiver. So then the Falcons still went Pitts, but because of the trade, they had no competition for Pitts. They were able to get him. And Richie Grant in the second, like you said, yeah, they're top 3 picks with Mayfield in the third. I think that overall, I think they had the best top 3 picks in this division. But then the back half of their draft, I didn't really like. So, yeah.
Yeah. And obviously the Panthers number 1. I said that, from the first time we discussed the draft. I thought they did a very good job. Like I said, the only picks that I didn't really like were the last 2, Thomas Fletcher and Phil Hoskins. All the other guys, I think their first 9 picks will make the roster and have roles. I think you could realistically see not their first 9 guys that they drafted on the field at some point this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you kind of touched on it before when we were talking about them individually, but the Panthers did what the Jets failed to do with Darnold. They actually put players around him and gave him stuff to work with. So they're putting all their eggs in the Sam Darnold basket there, and they're relying on him to take them to the next level, which I'm not saying is a bad thing. I still think he's got potential, but I don't know if Adam Gase might have just ruined him. There might not be any fixing him. And again, like I said, it's not his fault, but yeah, I think the Panthers as a whole have the brightest future with this draft class.
Yeah, I think realistically, if the Darnold thing works out, Panthers finish second in the NFC South this year.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting 3-team race there for the second spot.
I'm still not a big believer in the Falcons, even with Kyle Pitts. Defense is still not where it needs to be. And I've never been a big Matt Ryan guy, even when they went to the Super Bowl. I don't know. I like my quarterbacks to actually be able to run, something that Matt Ryan doesn't do very well.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. But just preliminarily here. I'm going Bucks first, Panthers second, Saints third, Falcons last.
Yeah, I think it all depends on the quarterback play for the Saints and for the Panthers. Because I think both defenses are still top half of the league at the very least. Maybe even top 8, top quarter of the league. But yeah, it all depends on if Jameis Winston or Sam Darnold, whoever performs better, I think that team will win, or not win, but that team will get second place. And I could also see a scenario where all 3 of these teams, with the Bucks, the Saints, and the Panthers, I could see a scenario where all 3 end up making the playoffs.
Yeah, definitely. Just depends on what the threshold is this year.
Mm-hmm.
Not 8-8 like it was last year to get into the 7th spot.
Yeah. I mean, there is a lot of factors that we aren't used to. I mean, obviously we had this past season with the 7th seed, but that was the first year with it, so we don't really have much to go off of with that. And now that with the added game, there's a lot riding on that last game.
Yeah, but we see now. I think last year was a good indicator, conference-wise. I do still think AFC has more teams that are better than the number of teams that the NFC has.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it was 8-8 last year to get into the playoffs between the Cardinals and Bears. So,
yeah, I think you might need a winning record this year.
Yeah. All right. That is our show for today.
Wait, actually, let me retract the statement. You might not need a winning record if you're in the NFC East, though. We got to see if those 4 teams, how much they improved. But other than that, you're going to need a winning record.
The NFC East, I'm going on record, May 10th. The NFC East winner will have a winning record. It will be the Dallas Cowboys that will win the NFC East.
All right.
Yes.
Heard it here first.
That is our show for today, though. We'll be back on Friday breaking down the AFC from that Orlando Brown trade. And next Monday, you'll have your Jets jersey on, Chris.
Mm-hmm.
And I will have my Tebow Jets jersey on. And we will be breaking down the AFC East on next Monday's show, their draft. So,
yep. I gotta figure out what Jets jersey I'm gonna wear though, because I don't have any current players right now. Maybe I'll pick up a Zach Wilson jersey before next week. I don't know. Let's see.
You go. You got to get an Ian Book Saints jersey now too. But yeah, don't forget to follow us on all our social media at FAA Podcast on Instagram and Twitter. FAApodcast.com is our website. We have some swag. Just click the shop button in the top right corner. Also follow us on Spotify and here on YouTube and Facebook. Just search Football Addicts Anonymous on those platforms. Thank you, Chris, and we'll see you on Friday. Schedule release show tomorrow night. Make sure you tune into NFL Network. I believe it's 8 o'clock Eastern.
Yep.
All right. I'll see you, man.